So with the sunset scene, problem with the camera, when you take a photograph of anything like that, when you have stark contrast between elements, like the light in the sky and your foreground, is the camera is going to basically eliminate one or the other for the most part, all the subtleties. So in the dark, if you have any kind of foreground as far as trees sticking up out of there or anything else, generally speaking, you're not going to see much detail in there with the sunset. So we have to go with what we know, not with what, if we're using some kind of a digital reference or anything, if we're not using an actual plein air study, then we need to use what we know about those things. So a good little rule of thumb, something that's helpful, is just to keep in your mind that it's going to, well, even in the sky, a lot of things are going to be blown out, so the lights will get lighter, and the foreground, of course, is going to get darker than it is. So that's generally across the board with photography. You just have to remember, lights are going to get lighter, and darks are going to be darker. It's going to lose all the subtlety in both the highlights and the darkest darks. Okay, so we don't, that's why relying on photographs and never going out and painting on location is not a good idea, because you're just not going to you're not going to have in your mind what's actually there. When we paint on location, our mind is then, we can really focus on what's actually there, squinting at things. We can see the value shapes and relationships much more clearly. And when we paint it on location, rather than just looking at it, taking a photograph, as all of those senses are involved, and it starts to get really, it's in our minds in a way that we can recall it. So if you just take a photograph and then you take that photograph home, your senses weren't involved in the process. So then trying to recall what you saw is much more difficult. But painting on location over time, all of those senses are right there, and your mind can then have a lot more pathways for recall. So that's why painting from life is always our go-to system for learning how to paint. All right, so with this, and starting out, I'm going to, because we have the cloud going across there, the top and the bottom, and they're darker, I'm going to start with my lightest areas of sky first, and then add the cloud on top of that. Okay, so let's get some walnut oil out here, and my brush was already still wet from doing the hollyhock piece this morning and yesterday. So I've got a little bit of purple in there, which isn't, lavender or whatever, it's not going to bother anything at all. All right, and we'll take and most of this I'm just going to wipe off anyway, so I'm just getting quick color down on here.
Now that looks like ultramarine, and I thought you said you don't use ultramarine.
Not on a sunny day. I use that is ultramarine with some manganese, but on a sunny day it's a much different color. It's much cooler blue. But when it's a sunset, there's a lot more filtering in there. So I then added ultramarine to it for that more lavender warming of the sky.
And purple.
It actually gets warmer because the light is more, there's a lot more around the light where it's coming towards the horizon. When it hits there, it's all that light's kind of being trapped by everything around it, whether it's moisture or dust or whatever. And so we see a lot more of the sun, the actual warmth from the sun affecting the colors. And because the the light is being diminished, then we're getting more shadow in there, and that's going to warm up the light, the color for us. So instead of that cool, more cerulean or manganese blue that I would use in a sunshine state, a full, middle of the day time, I'm going to add some more ultramarine to it to warm it up some. And make it darker.
Purple too?
What's that?
No.
Oh, I had some lavender left in my brush from from painting earlier. I kind of washed out most of the paint, but not all of it. So there was still some lavender left in there. I'm not overly concerned about my brushes that way when I paint, especially as long as they're alike in temperature and color range, then it doesn't hurt me. But for anyone who does have any concerns that way, you might want to wash your brushes out a lot better than I do. I'm going to get actually a nice clean brush for the bottom area, because it's not, and when I said all that about light, a lot of it has to do too with that the farther away you get from the sun, the darker the sky is going to be. So the top of the painting is going to be just that darkening of it is warming it up or making it more towards the ultramarine. Whereas when we get down towards the closer, if it's not actually picking up atmospheric moisture like clouds or any of that, if it's picking up that sort of thing, then it's probably going to reflect the rays of the sun and turn more of a yellow or an orange or that sort of a color. But if it's just the pure sky and it's not picking up as much, then it's going to be more of the cerulean color that we were talking about. Okay, which darker than if it was noonday, of course, but still closer to that color as we come down. And then we'll have areas that will warm up with some of those yellows and oranges and all the other sunset colors that we love to look at.
So what color blue is that?
Manganese. All right. And then when we really get down towards the bottom, then of course we can get into the lavenders and reds and oranges of the sunset. All right, so I can go back to my other brush and start getting some of those deeper lavender colors in there. And here, now remember, even though it's getting darker and it's sunset, sky is never as dark as what we initially, our first reaction to it is usually, wow, that's really dark. And so when we're starting out painting skies, we tend to make them much darker than they should be. That doesn't mean that we want them to be too pastel either and wimpy with the contrast. So. You notice I'm just looking at the overall broad shapes that are in there. It's a very abstract process at the beginning. And not a lot of hard edges, obviously, because they're clouds. But that doesn't mean that you can't get some fairly decent edges in there either. Sometimes when you get those, when the light is like at sunset and the light is coming from behind and really hitting just the edges of those, it can look pretty sharp edged. I just added to the same mix, crumb, I don't even remember. Sorry. I know I used ultramarine. I put a little bit more red, alizarin crimson into it. You know, just just creating a. It just appeared on my palette. I don't know where on earth that came from. I have little paint sprites that come in here and. Okay. And oh, Julie, do you want to come around so you can see what I'm doing when I paint? You can just come from that chair, just sit in that one. It's the same kind of chair, and it'll be. Unless it's hard to see from that angle, I don't know. Sometimes those angles can throw off, you know, seeing the color accurately. But it's probably easier to see from that angle than looking through my back. Okay, you can go right up by that box if you want to. That might be a lot.
But if she does that, then can you see that? Can you see
Oh, I see the picture. You know what? You go over there, and I'll move the picture. I have two monitors. Yeah, that's what 2 monitors is all about.
Can you see it?
There we go. Most things are.
Could you turn just a
Can you strike a pose? All right. So with in looking at these clouds, I want to make sure that I don't want a static cloud that's just kind of hanging there. So with this, I don't want just a straight line going across here when I'm done. I'll do some playing with the way that the sun hits the bottom of these and probably move one area up or down a little bit from the other as far as the emphasis of it, so that I create kind of a movement with the cloud rather than a straight heavy line going across there. And so those are some of the things that I'm thinking about as I'm putting all this in here. Alrighty. And now you can see that when I first started putting the sky, just the sky part in there, it seemed kind of dark. But now that I have this darker cloud in here, that sky looks pretty light, almost too light. So that's a good exercise in relativity right there. Just noticing that light and dark are relative. You know, it depends. If we come out of a room that's been super bright, like all these lights in here, and we go into a dark room, we're blind, we can't see a thing. But if you sit in that room for a while, your eyes will adjust and everything opens up and you can see a lot more. You can start to make out images. But at the same time, if you came out of that room and looked at, you know, a really dark object and a really light object, you know, you're going to see those right off, obviously, because of the contrast. But it's, well, I guess more I'm thinking in terms of if you like those blocks, when someone does like that checkerboard pattern, they have a little base there and the shadows coming down. You can take if you have those checkerboard where they're dark light, dark light, dark light all the way down, and then you take one of those checkerboards from the shadow area of that base and look at it, it'll look, one of those light ones in between all the darker checkerboard patterns around it will look so bright. And it'll look just as bright as one of the brighter checkerboard ones that's not in the shadow. But if you take that out in actuality and place it next to it, it'll be darker usually than the darks sometimes on the checkerboard. So it's our minds, we see in relative terms. So that's why last time when I was working on those roses and Julie mentioned that I had those 3 little dots of color that stood out kind of like spotlights. It's because I didn't think about my own rule. One of the things I talked about earlier, where when you have a light, like when I took the sky color, if you take that same sky color and you put it in between branches and leaves, you want to darken it, because everything's going to filter out some of the light. It's going to be darker anyway. But I didn't. I just took some of that same color and put it in there, and boom, it looks like a spotlight. Okay, so this is kind of like that. We've got this spotlight here already. So I don't want these to look like big, huge, dark, heavy masses up there. I want them to feel like clouds that belong in the sky. So I'm gonna, as I go along, have to work on some of this and tone areas of that down so that they feel more natural than what they are right now.
Would you lighten the dark and darken the light?
Yes, in certain areas I'll be lightening up a lot of that cloud. Yeah. All right. And part of what will help to darken this area up again is when I add in the highlights. They're going to be much brighter. They'll then, in relation to this, these will be so bright that this will then again feel darker than it is. And then in looking at this color up here, it's a little bit dirty looking. It's not a really pleasant color. So, and that's because I let the lavender in my brush affect. And I realized that that lavender wasn't just lavender. It had transparent oxide red in it, more brown a bit, and that then made it not a clean sky color like I like to have in there. So see, it does bite me once in a while when I don't wash my brush as well.
But you liked it at first.
Yeah, it was, well, actually after I put it down, I immediately didn't like it very much. It just looked a little bit dirty, but I knew that I would be able to repair it because it's oil paint. So sometimes I like to not get too heavy with the paint in some of these areas because I like the light from the panel to reflect off. So I like a more transparent tone there. But in this case, I'll probably put a lot more paint and it'll be just fine. I'll get heavier and then I'll get a cleaner color in there.
So you would like it more transparent toward the top?
When like with a rose petal, a flower petal, or a sky, often I will wash in with my initial wash such that I don't necessarily have to go back in and do anything to it. And it's thin enough that when the light hits it, it goes right on through to the panel, and a lot of that light from the panel, the white of the panel, reflects back out and makes it much more bright and luminous is what it does. So the more paint I add, all that opaque paint then takes away some of that luminosity. But at the same time, paint is pretty magical, and even when you start getting opaque, just by using what we're talking about here with relativity, with warms and cools and lights and darks, we can still create a lot of that luminous effect even with the opaque paint, even if we start getting thick. But it just saves me time and effort if I can get it right off the bat with the panel. Okay, so where do I want to go here? So I'm going to add in some foreground stuff, maybe the tops of trees or something. I'm going to put in a small little mountain area out there and maybe a type of a prairie coming out so that I have something, a relative dark down here to help me to know how dark in value to go with the clouds. Right, so just like, somebody who doesn't know I have a class going on. Huh. Let me tell her real quick. Hey Tawny, I have a class going on right now. Can I call you back in a couple hours?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, thanks, love you. Bye. Alrighty. because it's basically nighttime. I don't have to get...
Did you take that picture?
I think so. I'm not sure. I didn't look to see.
How did you get that so dark? What colors did you mix to make it so dark?
For the mountain?
Uh-huh.
Just ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson. And whatever else I had on the palette there. And generally speaking, the top, right where it meets the sky, will often be darker than at the very bottom of it, at the same scene. So I can get some lighter color coming down here in the bottom, because what happens is, for one, there's something to do with the atmosphere down here at the bottom. Part of it is that it's that what we were talking about with leaves and branches. When you have a dark area and a light area coming together, the relative effect is that they're both going to affect one another. So this part up here is going to feel darker because of its relativity to the light sky than what we see down here. And part of that is probably because of how it affects our eyesight, you know, as far as a lot of bright light here next to this dark makes it hard for us to distinguish the dark edge. And as we come down, our eyes aren't filtering out all that bright light up here relative to this, so we can see more down at the bottom. I really don't know all the science behind that, but that's just from observation, you know, being out on the field.
Will that be on the quiz?
Yeah, I think actually if you flunk that one, then I don't know, I'm gonna have to take serious measures. And I think I want to bring that down right over this way. I don't want both this angling up and the cloud angling up, so I'm going to change that compositionally and bring this down some. And And remember, with everything that I say, there are always exceptions to rules. So it's not something to get overwrought about or anything like that. They're just helpful things to think about. Oh, actually, maybe I'll move that over. Alrighty. So let's see. Actually, I could. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to put anything else in the foreground yet. Later, I might put something in there, like just a spot of ground or something right at the bottom edge, but really the frame's going to cover up most of that anyway, so I'm just not going to worry about that at the moment. We'll start getting in some of the other colors. So I have all these lavenders in here. We can just go right over the top of those, generally speaking. If it starts to muddy up on me, then I'll see what else I have to do as far as wiping color off or something, but I'm just going to go right into adding some other color into here.
Is that cat red light?
That is cad red light, yes.
Oh, it's
I think that's where did I go to the light or
the
the?
light.
Okay. Go to the light.
Oh, it's good.
All right. So I think I'm going to move in that photo, the sun is right in the middle there, and I'm going to move it over some. So our brightest area is of course going to be right where the sun itself is, and then it's going to diffuse as we go away. All right. It's already dried on me. That was quick. I'm not a real fan of actually having the sun in the picture, but sometimes it can be fun, I suppose. Let's see. And then we're going to have to, now that we have the sun in there, brighten everything up around it. I'm going to reduce the size of that quite a bit and bring the mountain up. I don't want that to be as big as we've got it there. That way we'll make the clouds feel a lot bigger than they are. And as I do that, I'll probably pull my, actually I should probably take that down farther and then pull the mountain up. Oh no, that's probably good in relation to where the frame will come, and I won't be too close to the frame. All right.
I like the way you manipulate your brush.
Oh. Yeah, moving the brush around. Remember, this is a tool, so just think about whatever it is that you need the brush to do and make it do it. Nah, that's too light and pasty. Taking away the round sun, aren't I? Let's see here.
It doesn't have to be perfectly round.
No, it does not. In fact, oftentimes you get, I mean, depending on clouds and everything else around it, you can break it up pretty well. And I might end up doing that. I mean, sometimes I'll come in and do what I've done just now, and then come back with a palette knife and scrape right down through it, although I probably scraped too much, and then come back in and just kind of add some of that yellow back in there. But often, I mean, when you do this sort of thing, if there's especially when it starts to set up more on the panel, you can get some great effects just from the scraping. It's not so heavy and obvious. And I had one piece, some hollyhocks, and I had a house over in the top left corner that I had worked on and got a railing and all kinds of stuff on there with a little porch on the front, and the hollyhocks were up in front. They're the most important part, and that house just seemed to stand out. It drew too much attention to itself. So I just took my palette knife and scraped right down through it, and it was perfect. I didn't have to do anything else to it. It just worked out. So even with something like that, you know, we can come in, you get a softer brush maybe, come in and just kind of tidy it up a little bit and almost have what we want there. And it might even be better with more of the scratches in it, you know, and then maybe just a little touch to brighten it up in there. Might be just plenty to give us the idea that the sun is setting and it's back in there. Especially since it's really not going to be as intense and bright, generally speaking, as what we see in the photograph. But, you know, if we feel like it's just too little, just add a little bit more back in there. But that can take care of a lot of, if it starts to get heavy, just take your palette knife, don't worry about all the work you just put into it, just take it on out of there. And remember, we're supposed to be able to, if it's not working, and we take it off, and then we're even less happy with it, we should be able to do it all over again. Can't be afraid. It's fear that stops us from learning anything. Just gotta push forward. So try something. If you feel like doing it, go ahead and do it. All right. Let's see. So then, in fact, when I look in my mirror, that looks pretty good right there. That looks a whole lot better than when I had all the paint gobbed up on there. Okay, so then I can take and play with some of the cloud colors here a little bit. And I think I need to get some cleaner brushes maybe. Let's see what I can get out of this. Way too many brushes in my hand at the moment. There we go. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna get some of that haziness. Wrong brush. Oh well. Coming in here. Gonna add some of this color in here and then wipe it off. Actually, what I should have done was just put in what I wanted from the beginning with the right paint, using white, and instead of wiping it off, but we're gonna go with this. And then I'll come back with some blue paint and white. Somebody's having fun out there. Sounds like they're having a squirt gun war or something. I like those. I have let's see, got it back in the 90s.
machine gun.
What are those called? The most well-known squirt guns. I have the like 3000 or something. Oh, is that your phone again?
Oh, that's your phone. I thought it was
Here we've got
my
somebody
phone.
outside, and then and then her phone goes off. That was perfect.
I don't know if it was a dog that scared the hell out of us. It would. They would think it was a patient.
I know, I tried turning this off before. Bill, did I send you the video of David with the paint squirters? No.
I read the article on stuff. I don't remember the video. I don't think
It
so.
just came out and think today. Well, he sent me it last night.
Oh, then no, I haven't seen it.
Okay, well,
He looked like he wanted to squirt somebody with that paint.
Is that right?
but he wasn't. He was painting the canvas.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. Okay, so we're gonna tie these together here eventually so that we don't just have one shape here and one shape here that are basically the same size. But I'm just kind of laying out where I want to go right now, and then we'll go from there.
Are you gonna try to make those
It
rays?
is, kind of.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, at the end that won't be put in yet.
You kind of have a little bit.
Yeah, it looks
A little
like
bit.
That's the frosting.
At the end.
And actually, I think it will come in more with.
Sorry, I'm trying to turn it off.
Is it an iPhone? Usually on the side of.
Boy, that's looking like something I'd I'd see at one of those shows where they're just trying to figure out how to paint. It's looking pretty sorry at the moment. All right.
We have faith.
That's good.
Looks like
Glad somebody does. What's that?
I said it looks like our paintings, but
No, you guys do a good job. All right. Sounds like people at church. All that whispering going on.
You want a piece of candy?
No, thank you. Hey, my brain already struggles enough. I stay away from candy.
My brother totally cut out sugar and he quit getting headaches, a whole lot of really positive effects.
I don't eat any processed sugars. Except on a rare occasion, and that's only if it's like a high-end specialty candy or something and it's just for splurging. But I don't splurge very often.
what kind of sugar does Christy use?
We get raw honey
Raw.
in 5-gallon buckets
Oh my God.
from a local honey person.
Oh.
And then we usually go through about 6 of those a year. So,
Steve gets this big jar of raw honey.
oh, okay.
Maybe from the same lady, she Russian.
No, we get it.
From the farmer's market?
She goes to the farmer's market, but I usually go out to her home, or her husband will drop it off here as he's going to work, but they live out near the reservoir. And we've been getting honey from them for quite a while.
Is that their own bees?
Hmm?
Their own bees?
Yes, they certainly do.
So Christy uses that to bake with.
Yeah, well, she did. We recently were starting to get honey for her to bake with from like Costco or whatever. I mean, we try not to get, you gotta watch a lot of honeys because some of that comes from China and it's not all honey. It has a lot of, you can't trust almost anything that comes from China as far as food goes, because they don't have a lot of their stuff, olive oil and everything else, it's all watered down with, it's adulterated with other ingredients that aren't necessarily what's on the label. And they get away with it. I'm not quite sure how all that works, but it does. So, but we're getting other honey for cooking, because once you cook it, you've defeated the purpose of having raw honey anyway. Kills all the nutrients.
Coconut oil?
Oh yeah, we use coconut oil all the time, organic coconut oil.
Have you tried,
Let's see.
turbinado sugar?
Yeah, it's turbinado we've used, but it's we usually just get organic sugar, and we just don't use it very often, you know, except for desserts once in a while. All right. We try to we stay with organic as much as possible, and then of course we follow like the clean 15 and all that sort of thing.
What would that be?
They have the dirty dozen and the clean 15
Tell me about it.
as far as food goes. There are certain things that they use pesticides on a lot more than other things.
Oh, I think I have a sheet like that, like pears and apples and stuff like that.
Yeah, apples are terrible. They're one of the most sprayed things, so we always get organic apples.
Yeah.
And then, but like avocados, don't have to worry about. Bananas, I think, are one of the clean 15. So a lot of those things,
Oranges.
yeah.
Where do you find all your organics now?
Well, we go to Indianapolis to do our bulk shopping once a month, and that's where we get most of our stuff.
Where do you go to get them?
We go to Trader Joe's and Costco for most of the things that we get.
Never go to Whole Foods, yeah, it's too expensive.
Oh yeah, Whole Foods, but we haven't found it necessary now. They're a lot farther down.
Trader Joe's.
Yeah, they're just farther down in Indy than Costco and Trader Joe's for us. So fortunately, we can find most of our things there, and we don't have to go all the way down. And Earth Fair is where we get some of our things on the way, because it's in between here and Indy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Square.
Let's see.
Sorry to direct your painting to food.
Oh, hey, it's always fun to talk about food.
Yeah.
I don't think you can go wrong talking about food. Let's see. We've been eating organically basically for over a decade, and more. I mean, we've slowly gotten it more and more refined over the last 25 years. So we pretty well know where to go, where we're going to get the best prices overall on everything. And that's how we do everything. So like Enoch, except for maybe a couple times in his life when somebody didn't realize he wasn't supposed to have it at church and he got it, he hasn't had any processed sugars or anything, hardly. Some cracker, you know, like Dr. Cracker, that sort of thing, but that's why he's so healthy. 7 years, and then of course the living fuel that we have in our smoothies every morning is very helpful.
What?
Living fuel. I learned about it, read the book by Dana Torres, or about Dana Torres, the Olympic swimmer. It's a powder whole food it's not a supplement. You can actually live on it. So most supplements, you know, you can they only give you certain nutrients. You can't live on the product. You have to have something else to be with it in order to get all the appropriate nutrients or proteins or whatever. The living fuel, it has everything in it, so you can actually live on it.
Where'd you get that? Yeah, where'd you get that?
Well, when I heard her mention that in her stuff, that's how she got through her training in her 40s. I looked it up, and it's just on the internet. They're out of Florida, and a lot of athletes use it. It's very, very healthy stuff.
When you started using it, could you see a difference or feel a difference?
I don't know. I've always lived so healthy anyway. I mean, basically, I try to live healthy because art takes a lot of brain power in order to figure this stuff out. So I try to keep my brain as healthy as possible. My biggest downfall is sleep. I tend to not sleep as much as I need to. And that's what gets me, but I should be sleeping more. But as far as I did get sick before that, usually you know, a couple times, 3 or 4 times a year, and now I've been sick. I've been using well, between the living fuel, actually I've been using living fuel for about 7 years, about 6.5 years, I think. So what really turned the tide for me was when I stopped eating all animal proteins. I'm not against eating meat. I just don't eat it. You know, if I was starving and I had nothing else, I would eat meat. So it's, you know, it's not to that extent. But if I have something else, I don't eat any
We don't
meat.
eat any meat at all.
So since then, when I cut out all animal proteins, I don't get sick. I think maybe once and a little bit once since then, and that's been 2.5 years.
Steve doesn't
So-
get sick either.
So that's very, very handy. Oh, there are all kinds of protein sources besides meat. It's beans and rice is a great one. But the living fuel, it has perfect protein, carbohydrate, and fat ratio in it. I don't know. It's expensive though. Living fuel is expensive. But if you just have 1 serving a day, you know that you're getting a good portion of nutrients that you're probably not going to get in any other foods that you eat. So, you know, you can get your... Yeah, we put it in a smoothie every morning. Enoch's had a smoothie every morning just about his whole life. So it's a lot more work that way. It's not easy to make those, but it definitely is worth it.
Sorry to get off on this tangent, but what do you have with that?
We get all, well, we get the most of our frozen fruits from Costco. So we go back to the clean 15, dirty dozen. Strawberries are a dirty dozen. You don't want to buy them unless you get organic. And so we get, but now Costco just started carrying organic strawberries. So we go for the biggest bang for our buck when it comes to frozen fruit. We buy a lot of bananas, we'll go to Costco at the beginning of the month and buy a whole box of bananas. And then we freeze them all. You know, we just cut them up, or I just break them up into Ziploc bags, put them in the freezer, and good to go. Without the peel, yeah. Yeah, you know, we break up the bananas into pieces so that they go into the smoothie nicely. And we have a Vitamix. Great, we've had a Vitamix since 1997.
Oh, wow.
They are awesome. Yeah, Okay, so we have, boy, the people that are gonna watch this video are gonna just love this part. Let's see, we start with water. I just fill up the Vitamix container about halfway or so with water. Then we put in a section, I have it all down, so I do about the same thing every time. The raw honey, we put that's our sweetener for it. And I like the nutrients we get from raw honey. That's why we use it. So raw honey, and then we put cinnamon, and there are different kinds of cinnamons too. And the Saigon is a good one because I think Saigon, Vietnamese, they're stronger than some of the others. So we put cinnamon, peanut butter, organic peanut butter, and which you can also get at Costco now, depending on which store you go to. There are 2 stores in Indy, and they don't both carry the same things. So you have to go to the right one. Let's see.
I'll give you a list.
Then we have the living fuel. I also get well, living fuel was out of their protein, so usually I use the living fuel protein, which is really good stuff. But we also bought an organic hemp protein. It has nothing else in it. It's just pure organic hemp protein. And so we'll use a scoop of protein or 2, and then we put in, especially since I lift weights, I like to have I guess it's a little bit of a misnomer that you need all that extra protein, but I think with lifting, I see a difference. I think it's helpful. So we put in a scoop of the protein, and then a scoop of both the living fuel greens and berry one. They're 2 different canisters. And then, what else do we have in there? We might put a little bit of organic lemon juice in it, because it helps. Lemon juice is a preservative. So like with mine, I put it in my thermos and I have it all morning long. It kind of keeps it fresher, I think. Then we put in, I think that's about, sometimes we'll put little things in there. Oh, we use chia seeds. Put a little scoop of chia seeds into it. Or flax seed.
I do flax and chia.
Oh, okay. And let's see. Then it's just the frozen fruit, I think, after that. We put in organic pineapple. We like pineapple. The biggest bang for the buck is the pineapple, the wild blueberries in the big bags at Costco, and the strawberries and bananas. So, and sometimes now they just got some mango in. So that's generally fairly inexpensive too. We stay away from the $3 a pound stuff that they have. And so we put in a lot of bananas, and then the pineapple and blueberries are probably our favorite one. And right now we've been using, since they got the organic strawberries in, we've been using some of those. But great smoothies, huh?
You don't have yogurt or anything?
No, we used to use yogurt in the old days, but I don't use any animal proteins now, so
You don't do,
stay away
you
from
don't-
it.
You add water instead of I do almond milk.
Yeah, it's just water is cheaper, and there's nothing in the almond milk that I'm wanting, as far as nutritionally. There's nothing I need from it. So we like the chipper chicken, as Martin Short would say in Father of the Bride.
So there's
Chipper chicken.
There's no cholesterol whatsoever.
I don't ever worry myself about cholesterol. To me, that's a fallacy. If you eat healthy, you never have to worry about cholesterol. You never have to worry about your blood sugar levels or any of that stuff. My blood pressure, I'm almost 50. My blood pressure is always around 110 over 70. I mean, you don't have to worry about diabetes. You don't have to worry about arthritis much or any of those things. Most of those are caused by lack of motion and diet. So if you stay away from all of that stuff, there's no heart disease, no diabetes. You avoid most of the major diseases or complications that people have today. And it's shown over and over. It just works. And besides that, I get up at 5:20 in the morning and I can go till 10 or 11 at night and I don't get tired until I'm ready to go to bed. So to me, there's something there with that. And it doesn't matter if anyone else believes me. I don't care how people eat, They can eat it however they want. It works really well for me, eating this way. All right. Sure? Okay, so let's see here. A lot of what I don't like is that, this color coming on here is just kind of a muddy. It's because the color temperatures are fighting each other with the coolness of the lavenders and the warm that I put over the top of it. So I'm going to have to work a little bit more with pure color coming across as bands, and using some of the washes, staying more in the cooler lavenders, and then just kind of touching without blending the two much in order to keep those working with each other well, so they don't fight. Okay, so this is where we can put in some of the highlight areas, and I'm going to have to get a lot more white. So we'll take that. And there's certain colors that as you go along in a painting you'll use up and have to replace. So let's see here. That's why we put down a whole bunch of it in the very beginning. And this camera being where it's at is very awkward. I'm afraid you're gonna get an eye full of my face several times in there. Not a real pleasant proposition for you. Okay. So when we look at the edges of things, a lot of this, the success of it's going to depend on brush pressure. So I don't want to, when I lay some of these down, I don't want to blend them together to a great extent. The bright highlights are going to be separate, and you're going to want to make sure that you have enough contrast in there. So don't go, the traditional route for students is to have everything go into the middle value range, right? So we're going, but then at the same time, it might not be as bright as what it looks like either on there. And I chose the side that had just white on it instead of my side with the yellow. White is just kind of pasty looking. So it has that fun area here. So when I say not to blend them too much, once you lay it down, just kind of leave it. If you want to change something about it, don't do it with the same brush. Come back in and change something. So like if I want to, I don't want necessarily the same light color from top to bottom, then I can come in with a different pure color, or more pure color here, and come up into these areas and add it in here. But I'm not going to fuss with the other color when I put it down on there, because that color I want to maintain that same clarity of value that I have there from the very start. And part of what I'm doing when I put this in is I'm looking for areas, compositional. I'm thinking compositionally when I'm placing these. I don't want, like I said, just a straight line coming across, creating a heavy border between this area and here. I want to break that up, and I can use these highlights to do that with. So when you're putting it in, don't think, okay, the cloud is just going to have kind of an outline of light all the way along. That's not necessarily so. You can come in and place your lights in a way that you can then lead the viewer where you want the viewer to go with it. Somebody is texting. So don't be afraid when you place something down on there that if it's not exactly the way that you want it to be, that doesn't matter. You can come back in and manipulate and maneuver things later. But so with a lot of this, when I put something down, sometimes it'll end up being exactly what I want and I don't touch it again, and it's just fine the way it is. But to a great extent, what I'm doing is I'm going through the piece and placing things in a way that it will help me with relationships, so that I know basically how bright or how dark to do another area. So I'm placing in some of these bright, pure colors in here, so I know then how strong to go in other areas. And so I'll go through the piece and just start placing things in that way and figuring out how it's working. So because I'm going to be putting some light up here into these clouds to pull some clouds forward and push others back, I wanted first to get some of my bright highlights so that I have the value relationship that will help me determine how bright or not to go with areas over here. Otherwise I might get this too light to begin with, and when I put these in, for the most part, that's where I really want to lay them in and have them be exactly the way I want them to be, instead of playing with them. So when I said like this one, I'm not as worried about it because I can come in and work around the edges and stuff. Well, with some of this, I already know that I'm going to want to, if I can, to save me a lot of hassle, place these in and have them exactly the way I want them to remain when I'm done, so that I don't displace a lot of this, because I like a lot of the brush work in here and I don't want to lose all of that. So I'd like that to stay as much as I can right now. It might end up changing later, but that's what that's my goal at the moment. So let's see. Maybe before I darken this brush up, I think I'll just put in a couple more highlighted areas. You can see when I'm doing this, I'm using all the different edges of the brush. So like I put in a line of, just get some paint on there. I can come in with another edge that doesn't have any paint and rough up that edge, to break it up, to soften an edge, or just to remove excess paint that I don't necessarily want on there. So use your brush, as a tool. So many different things you can do with it. I'll use that same one. Okay, so I need a bigger brush than that. I'm going to have to go over to the pile and pull out another one. Because when I lay in these colors, I want them to be clean, and I want a big enough brush that I don't have to try to fill in where the brush left. It wasn't big enough to get it in one stroke. I want to be able to get it all at one time. And I want a brush that isn't too stiff, so that's why I'm kind of getting some Turpenoid Naturals in there to break up any stiffness that might be in my brush. I want it to move freely when I do this. Okay, so now it's starting to feel better as far as the sunset goes. We're getting closer to making it nicer looking. So right now what I'm doing is I'm looking at how I want to draw this on there. So I remember drawing in the air, drawing in my mind before I actually place it on there, since I want it all in one fell swoop. If it doesn't work, well, then I'm a little bit sad, but we can still repair it. Okay. Actually, it needs to be darker than that, doesn't it? And
So you're pretty much a vegan, huh? You
Uh,
don't eat cheese or,
yes, but I don't
you know,
I don't call myself vegan because I'm not actually vegan. I'm not against eating meat or anything. I just don't do it. Mine also relates a lot to my religious beliefs. As far, we have in our church what's called the Word of Wisdom. So I consider myself a Word of Wisdomist. I live the WOW diet. That's what I call it. I'm a diet that came about over 200 years ago. No, it hasn't been 200 years, but over 150 years ago. And now we have so much science that backs it up.
cool.
But I never worry about whether the science backs it up or not. I don't care. I don't need the science to back it up. That's a better color. Adding that transparent oxide red in there, it might have been closer to the color that we see in our photo, but I didn't really like it, so I changed up to a brighter orange color. And that might be a little bit strong. There we go. And remember, I'm not worried about copying what we see in the photograph either, unless I like it. And then I might capture some of that in there. So these I might decide are too light here.
Right?
Yeah, too bright. Too light and bright. That's actually pretty dark. Again. Yeah. Oh. That's a friend, I think, in Indianapolis.
Is it really?
What is it?
10 till 4.
Oh,
She
okay.
asked me.
All right. Right. Let's see. So. I decided to disrupt everything anyway.
Do you ever make note cards of your paintings?
Note cards, what do you mean?
Like note cards that you can send to people, like.
Oh, you mean like cards like this? With an envelope kind of thing, or
Yeah.
like a postcard, or yeah, I have.
Why do you do that? Where do you sell them?
I don't sell the cards. I mean, I haven't tried to sell cards before. I probably could and should maybe, but
Even miniatures that take cards. They will.
Tristan.
They'll take the painting and make it into
No,
card.
no,
Oh, no, no.
They'll take the cards and sell them.
sometime I just don't get around to a lot of that stuff, but sometime I'll try to get some of that on my website, I guess.
Who makes the paintings and the cards?
I have some downtown tonight.
I mean, I think,
Your own painting and the cards? Like Aaron?
Whatever happened to the heroines?
oh, I saw your violin. That was really cool.
Thank you. Thank you. I was pleased with they made $11,000.
Wow, that's great.
You made $11,000?
Oh, no. Yes, my violin sold for $11,000.
That's right. A donation.
No.
Yeah. No, it's over 1,000.
Nope.
And the Aaron?
But,
Cool with warm, that did not work.
I love that. That was great. I love watching you paint it too.
Yeah, if you
About food.
can't talk about food.
We tried doing most of what you eat, but I can't do the cheese and
Yeah, I love cheese. Cheese is tasty stuff. Yeah, yogurt. We used to get organic yogurt. And I really do like yogurts and cheeses and all that. They're tasty.
We used to order pizza, which was just sauce and black olives on it. That was disgusting.
Well, there are some pizzas out there that don't need cheese, but not. They're harder to find. hmm
Papa Murphy's makes really good vegetarian gourmet thing. Oh, it's delicious. No cheese. It's really good. Oh, no cheese? No, I'm not sure what we're talking about.
We were talking about your.
Yeah. I mean, I know it has a lot of vegetables and stuff. It did every once in a while, but it probably has. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. I don't like
Okay. So I've got to get my thoughts clear about this sun thing.
The question is, are you having fun?
Oh, it's always, actually no, it's not always fun painting. It's usually fun painting, but not always. Sometimes it's very frustrating. And some elements can just, even on a sky, sometimes I do them and they just flow right together, whoomp, and they're done. And then there are ones that, like this one today, that had good intentions when they began, but not necessarily fruition. I think most artists have discard paintings here and there.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I don't have very many that I discard, but once in a while.
Well, if you're ever gonna discard the partial,
Oh. The peony.
I
All right, so a lot of what I am not liking is that I'm mixing my warm and cool colors, and the color temperatures are fighting each other. So I have to figure out how I want to play with those. The transition between the cooler and warm.
Is that anything to do with being wet on wet?
No, it just has to do with how I'm placing the colors with each other. I can place wet on wet all the time. I mean, that's pretty much what alla prima is. But it's when I place the colors in a way that the warm and cool mix and that don't belong with each other. That's all it is. Let's see.
Are you going to have a painting displayed in the alla prima display at Minnetrista, the one that was talked about in the paper today?
I don't get the paper, so I have no idea anything about that.
Well, or you have something in the book, don't you?
In what book?
Is it alla prima 3?
Oh, the Indiana painters?
Yes.
No, I've never even talked to anybody about that.
Yeah.
Not that I know of. Mm-mm. I've never even discussed it with anyone.
You need to talk to Dan Woodson.
Yeah, that's right.
I think he's the one who came up with the idea of the line and then.
Okay.
Yeah, you really should.
So I think I'm going to stop worrying about preserving all my lavenders and just
A little secret.
play with this. Yeah.
So you're concerned right down there at where the mountain.
Well, this right now is just ugly. I don't want to use any terms to describe it because they would just make people shudder. But basically, this is horrible right now, and the way this transitions into the lavenders over here isn't working well.
So how are you going to correct that? Are you going to cool that?
Well, yeah. For the most part, I'm going to. I have to transition these two differently than just this what I have right now going across the bottom. And also up here, I want to get some variety going on with the color, so I'm going to change some of this up here.
You want to borrow my scream?
No, I'm already screaming internally enough. So.
That could be a pond. Trees around 2 weeks, we could go out and paint some of the trees that are changing color.
Oh, I don't like to go outside. It's scary out there. I mean, you get attacked by bears. Who knows what might happen? Stray cats. That's a pretty.
A wolf.
Yeah, I love to go outside. So, sure, that'd be great.
The trees, they're changing. They're beautiful.
Rapid.
Yeah, I know. The fall is amazing.
Well, this year,
That's where we determined that the perfect living situation is fall and spring in Indiana and summer and winter in Colorado. we miss the Colorado winters and summers because the humidity for summertime just is, no, I can do without that. But the fall, yeah, fall here and spring here, because the blossoms on the trees and all that in the springtime, you don't get that in Colorado.
but in the fall in Colorado, it is beautiful. The sky is so clear and the elk are out.
Oh, sure.
And the aspens are golden.
Oh, fall, there's nothing to sneeze at with as far as, the fall in Colorado. It's just that the fall here is superior. We have a greater variety of trees, and I mean, I love aspen trees, and where we lived there in the mountains, there were aspens everywhere. So we had huge groves of the aspen trees, but down here, I don't know, when you have the sycamores and all the other trees here, it's pretty spectacular. And the colors are richer because you have more moisture here. No, we definitely miss the mountains. Okay, so this is already helping. Just coming in, I was so worried about preserving a lot of that lavender that I was missing a lot of opportunity for other color. So right there, that's going to start helping me to get better variety and interest into the piece. Yeah, in fact, when I look in the mirror, it tells me the same thing. Mirrors never lie. So, all right. And with this, because I have this more gentle value shifting, then I can come in with, let me see, grab a little bit cleaner brush than that. I can come back in here with some bright touches of color. And just add a couple little highlights in there, and then they'll stand out really well without being too,
In your face.
yeah, too beacon-like or something. In fact, that needs a little bit more deeper, richer color in there. Can really be fun. All those little clouds that hang out there by themselves and catch the light, those are a lot of fun. So. And that's one of what I think is awesome about painting sky scenes is you can get a lot of pure color in there, just like with flowers. If if we're not afraid to, I've got some pure color here and I'm not afraid to use it. Now that's basically what we have to.
I learned how to drive a stick and smoke cigarettes in the game.
Wow, that sounds like quite the adventure.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Did you ever go skiing?
When I was a kid.
I only went once a long time, and I lived right 6 hours away.
too many little dots of color here off by themselves. I almost like that, but I think I'll eliminate that one. Okay, so
Definitely don't stick to exactly like what the picture looks like, right? You just-
no, I rarely ever have a painting that, if I'm using a digital reference or a photo or anything, it rarely will look like the photo. I'm using it just to spur my memory of what was there when I was there or whatever, for the most part. So now sometimes I'll take a photo because I really like what I see in front of me, and the photo is basically what I wanted to capture in that area. So then my painting turns out a lot like the photo. But if we become reliant on photos, our paintings are going to look like we're reliant on photos. They'll become more stiff and unnatural feeling over time, because the photo just doesn't capture overall. It can't capture, especially everything that we experience when we're there, especially if we really don't know what we're doing with the camera. You might be able to manipulate a camera especially with Photoshop or something, so that you can bring out a lot of the subtleties that were lost in the darks and things that were lost in the highlights, but that takes a whole lot more than the average person will do with their photographs. Okay, so now with this, especially with the demonstration, I'm trying to point out a lot of the quicker, more abstract shapes and colors and values to put in here. But there are a lot of successful things you can do with coming in. Let's see. And putting in little details, or making it, taking more time and drawing in some of these things than what I'm doing in here. Like coming in and outlining, areas along the clouds. You can, there's nothing wrong with that. Having the light back there, highlighting the edges of those clouds. So just because I'm doing it very fast and fluid that way doesn't mean you have to be afraid to come in and do some of the things that show that backlighting of the clouds. But you notice it can still be fairly quick, and we don't want to do just an outline all the way around of the cloud. And especially it's good to vary things up, to get some different color in there. But we want to make sure in the beginning that our values are all right, especially like this. Otherwise, it'll look like a mountain or some other solid object, and it won't feel like a cloud when we're done. Let's see. So then as we get closer to the sun in here, a lot of these clouds then will be different color than the other areas. So even in doing that, you notice I'm really holding the brush back here and just letting it kind of dance along the panel, instead of getting right up in here like it's a pencil and trying to get it just perfect. Don't worry about getting it perfect. It's actually better to have some areas that flow back and forth around our highlights, because then it helps to tie all the different sections together. They feel like they belong with each other. Whereas if we just went and made sure that this dark was one shape and this went right along the edge of that, that's when it starts to get stiff, because we're not letting all the elements flow together and tie together in any way. Clouds are not neat necessarily. They're going to have areas that slip through that are a little bit more open and airy, that aren't going to catch the light exactly the same way all the way around. So don't worry about you know, like some of the stuff that slips up here, trying to get a highlight around all those little bits. It doesn't work that way in reality. Okay, so now I'm gonna have to tie like this line and this. Those don't work. So I'll tie those together. Let's see. I almost want to see if I can do this. I think that's just gonna feel muddy. It really is it's a small area of transition. In actuality, it's more like a circle around the cloud to an extent, not like a circle, but an oval or something. And so there's going to be an area of greater concentration of light, and then it subtly diffuses across there. So let's see if we can do this. And go the other direction. You're popular today.
I give up, really. Should be able to turn my own phone off.
Technology challenged. That's all right. There are worse things. Especially if we're technology challenged because we're spending so much time painting, we don't have time to think about something like that. Mm-hmm, that's right. The 30s. Oh, that's just beautiful sounding. I love to paint snow scenes. That's the redeeming factor of cold. That's the redeeming quality of cold, is that we can paint snow scenes. The other redeeming quality is skiing. Oh, I do miss Colorado for that too.
Where did you ski?
Just different places depending on, I mean, up in Vail and Monument and
Keystone?
Keystone. I think we've skied at Keystone before.
I bet that would be fun. I
Yeah.
went to ski once in Vermont, and I went from side to side to side to side. Got all the way down the beginner slope, stood up and said, "Look what I did," and I fell flat on my face.
I ran into a whole fence and
Did you?
air out of myself.
Oh, running into fences will have a tendency to do that. think they teach that in Skiing 101, how to safely run into a fence and get up and ski again.
Stopping would be good.
I had rented skis and one was super slick.
One ski?
One was a little travel. And one was, you
Really, so you went in circles?
couldn't control.
So right where the sun's coming into this mountain, it's going to,
I need to get this, so I'll go out.
Mm. Well, it's not going to be this
No.
harder edge like we might have in some of the other area, because the sun is going to, and all that light coming from the sun is going to diffuse around the edge of that. So I have to come in and break up the hard definition change between the light and the darker edge, so that the top of that mountain is going to feel like it's disappearing basically around the sun. Same kind of thing happens, when you're like on a highway and you see the heat waves and the road looks like it just disappears. That's kind of what we're working with here. Let's see. And I don't want just a round ball there. When you have all that warmth coming from the sun and that all condensed into that little area, it's going to be, think in terms again of those heat waves on the road where it makes everything kind of wafted in and out, So that's why I'm putting in some areas here and keeping my brush strokes a little more clunky or broken, the edge broken up, not just a round ball. You'll see in the photograph that it might look more like a round ball because it's taking out a lot of the subtleties around it. So, but in our painting, it's not the same quality. I want more of a painterly quality and feeling like there's stuff around that is breaking up those edges more. All right, let's see. And that. I want to add some alizarin crimson to it and cool that down a little bit coming into the transitional areas. A little bit richer color, especially closer into the sun. So now I have to really start looking at compositionally what I have and if I like it at all. Let's see, so and that I also need to introduce some other color into here too. Soften out some of the strong colors we have everywhere, those strong darks. Still had some of that brownish color right here, and I don't like that, so I'm going to take it out of there. And that is way too dark. Gotta watch out, because if I don't lay that on right and it blends, it's not, that's where I'm getting that brownish, mucky color. I guess I need to watch that word, muck. It sounds too close to something else that people might be offended by.
Say mud.
Mud, muddy, yes. Mud.
Enunciation is the key.
Yes, no doubt. I think a lot of kids nowadays have trouble with that enunciation part of things. I can't hardly understand a thing they say.
We had a waiter the other afternoon. He spoke so fast, so quickly, couldn't really understand.
Uh-huh.
Well,
My husband does this imitation of the guy at the ice cream drive-up window, and
Oh,
they take
yeah.
their order.
How does he do it?
Her husband does the imitation, not her.
Does the kid talk about it?
He just can't understand what they say.
He does it auctioneer style. See, when I say muck, I'm thinking of that muck at the bottom of a pond or something, you know. That.
It's like when you call for some kind of technological assistance and you get a foreign person, and then I don't understand.
I've told some of them, hey, nothing against, you know,
Right.
nothing against you. I just can't understand you. Is there
Yeah.
someone there that has a little bit less dialect than that?
we have a Korean minister, and On the phone, I have a horrible time talking to her. I just never slow it down. Was that an Eller or?
My ears, my wife insisted that my hearing was just not there, so she took me in when she was going through her speech and audiology program. First she took me to her studio to have my hearing tested, and it was perfect. So then it was better than perfect, I guess. So then she took me to a professional and had my hearing tested, and he said my hearing was perfect. But I was always having people repeat what they said, and I would not hear certain things. Well, the fellow said that what might be the problem is that I can't differentiate sounds from each other. I hear, like if I'm in a restaurant and there's conversations going on, I'm hearing everything all at the same time, and I cannot hear the person next to me because I'm hearing all the other sounds as well. And it doesn't filter, so I'm missing some kind of a filter there. So it's not that I'm ignoring you, dear.
Does she have a degree in that, speech and
Yes.
audiology?
Yeah.
I was in that for a while.
She loves speech, the speech and audiology program. She really loved that.
At Ball State, or was it?
No, she did this out in Colorado.
They have a good program at Ball State, though, too.
Yeah, they do. They do. And she actually thought about doing her master's in the program here at Ball State, but they very much, most of the people who get into the program are Ball State graduates from the undergrad program, and then there's like maybe 2 to 4 that aren't, but they're usually, it seems, from out of state. She's applied a couple of times and hasn't gotten into that. And she was the top of her class in her program in Colorado. She graduated, actually she was nominated for the Threlkeld Prize for Excellence. She was the runner-up for that out of the whole school. So she was the president of the program, everything there, but she can't seem to get into the program here.
Well, next time she applies, mention to certain people, and certain people might be able to get other certain people involved.
Yeah, she's really not interested in working full-time because we want her at home with everybody, and she likes being at home. But she likes the idea of having that, the master's, just because of the grandfather clause as far as that program goes. They're trying to make it so that you have to have a doctorate, and if she gets her master's, then she'd be all right. But she is a certified SLPA. She went through that certification program, which was pretty intensive in Colorado. They don't have that here. But she loves to work with kids, especially with a lot of that.
And there was a big autism and thing that they were bringing in specialists from all over the country for this autism awareness, and I think it might end up becoming an every year event.
She actually was accepted into a program. That's why I went back to get my master's, because she got it, and that's why we moved from Colorado. She got accepted into a program in Kansas, and they happened to have an MFA program there. So I applied for that. And then we had a family council, and our children, even though she was only going to school while they were in classes at school, they thought that homework and that sort of thing took too much time away from family, so they wanted her to not do the master's program. And we decided that was probably a good idea at the time. So she was in a program to do that at one time. Just hasn't been able to get into the one here. Okay.
It's just really weird. With all of that, her grade point and everything, you would think.
Yeah, that's really strange.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see, what else do I... Yeah, that might be. So,
Worth looking into it. And before we don't live anybody
in a painting, I don't necessarily want to have activity everywhere. You know, it's good to have some rest areas, but this might be a little bit too much of a rest area. So I'm trying to think of things I can do there that might be more, that might liven it up a little bit. I'm not sure what I want to do there yet. Let's see, and that is a little bit strong there. A little bit strong there too. I don't mind the rays coming off, but I don't want it to be quite so much orange, I think. Bringing in some sky color here and there although that's a little bit on the bright side, but that can really help to have a little bit more separation in places. Let's see. Well, what time is it? Do you guys have time to get your paints out? We got started pretty late on this one. Okay, so maybe then. Yeah, how many are going to the art walk tonight? All right. Oh, what time do you have to be there?
5.
Oh, is that right?
Whenever Susan and I would do
Yeah, good. I'm not going to that
that. So where the Mezzaluna restaurant used to be, Ivy Tech now, owns it, it's their culinary school. It's on the corner of Main and Walnut. Isn't that right?
It's a pretty inexpensive way to pick up decent food. Yeah. Like this and maybe cookie, $1.25. If you go to McDonald's, that size would be what? $2 something?
All right. So the rest of this is really just me determining what more I want to spice up, or it's just embellishments and flourishes and that sort of thing. We've got the overall sense of the scene now. And yeah, it's being videotaped, so you'll be able to watch this later.
With all our food talk.
And you'll know what to put in the smoothie.
That's right. You'll become a smoothie pro.
Are you going to the art walk tonight, Bill?
Yeah, well, I'll probably go for a little while.
I think it's a soup crawl too.
Oh, is that right? I'm hoping the rain stays off so that those poor Ball State students don't get drenched. They're outside.
The music section?
No, there's that area over by the ceramics place in that parking lot. They'll have a lot of artwork and everything. Yeah, yard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think Beverly and some of those girls were gonna be in Yard, not at Chesterfield's tonight. Did you see her at Chesterfield's when you were? She was only there for a little bit, but she said she was going to have a stress test. I was really concerned about her last evening.
Is there a heart?
So relieved she was having. She came to the meeting and left within 10 minutes. So many more self-issues.
Jeannie, you want candy?
No, thank you.
And use a different brush to pull that. What? I never use one of these. This might be good. Just don't want that quite so strong there.
Are we having a storm?
Okay. So any other areas that you think I should resolve for you before? I mean, what time is it? 4:30? Oh, so it's still.
Or do you have?
Oh yeah, I don't know. I'd probably look at it for a day and think about it before I do much more to it. But so what kind of things feel unresolved to you? And if you thought about if I was painting this, would this not feel? Would you want something, more built up more, or that sort of thing, so I can show you what we might be able to do if we took it a little bit farther? I really don't know.
When it squints, I see like a light lavender working up into the blue. Right in there.
And yep, and that's why I have areas like this light reddish lavender popping into here and this over here. But that depends, that is more of a stylistic change, where if I wanted to take like all of this here and kind of blend it up through, whereas I've kind of taken spots of color to give that feeling more, but we can still take something like this, and if it feels like it needs more than that, or if you feel like it needs more than that, you can just take and add some more spots of lavender in there. Just kind of pull it up through. Instead of necessarily taking the whole sky and making one tone all the way across. We can do that, but I would have done that earlier in the process.
What about the whole finger that's kind of coming down from the top?
Like here?
Yeah.
That? Yeah. That is kind of sitting out by itself, isn't it? Actually, it probably just needs a little bit of highlight or something to it.
I've actually seen a cloud kind of do that. I didn't really expect it in
What,
a painting.
give it
I've seen some walls just a couple of weeks ago in the sky.
Is that, yeah. Christy saw some going on into Indianapolis. It looked like mountains. They were so.
I've seen
Sometimes
that.
I squint and pretend.
No doubt.
I really do.
Yeah, she sent me a text with the photo saying I was on my way to Indianapolis and somehow I ended up in Colorado.
Now, you mentioned earlier perhaps putting in some shadows of trees. Are you not going to do that?
Like maybe putting in a, yeah, I mean, no, because
Yeah, it would distort that.
yeah, it would become more of a distraction, I think, than a healthy addition to it. Now, if I wanted to have something like that in there, remember, we can change it back if we need to. You know, maybe, yeah, that's the wrong color temperature. It needs to be a lot warmer than that.
Yeah, me too.
They don't have to be obvious, you know, just little bits. And you can even,
Added a lot. Talking just a minute.
and we can even pick up on an edge of some of those the idea that the sun is catching, you know, when we think of a light and shadow, have one side that feels like the light's catching it more, and it's even possible to come in and add some actual sun hitting on those. You've got to be careful with that because it can become tricky or hokey. Let's see, actually. Yeah. Probably more like that. The light catching on it. Oops. Hitting the camera, get everyone seasick. But overall, I think I'll stick with the greens. Just in case someone puts this into a floating frame. Oh, I keep hitting that camera. I'm not used to it being in that spot. So now if we change this then to some kind of a scene down there, you can take and add in where the light comes and hits, like the ground or something. You can create a Actually, it'll probably darken out as it goes farther away from the sun. But right in this area, I'll brighten that up a little bit. Now that doesn't mean we want it to be too bright, because basically it's sunset, so nothing's going to be super bright unless you have some kind of a reflective surface that's catching the light out there more.
What is a floating frame?
Oh, where the piece is sitting inside the frame and it has a space around it, so the painting's just floating in the middle of the frame instead of the frame coming around the painting. I haven't actually ever used any of those myself, but I've been tempted to sometimes, because I often will paint right up to the edge and it all kind of needs to be there. And then the frame, some of those frames will take up half an inch between the two sides, and then that's just way too much that it's taking away. So, you know, there are a lot of fun things we can do with all this as far as light catching on here. Just don't want it to become
All about down there.
sentimental, or, you know, how do I describe that? Kitschy, I guess. I don't know. It needs to feel natural, like as if it belongs without getting too cutesy, I guess, or something. Like now, I don't have anything against Thomas Kincaid, but that would be the equivalent of what I'm talking about, where, you know, he was a skilled artist and created a lot of beautiful things for people, but it's considered a sentimental beauty.
Sweet.
Yeah, overly sweet, and so it's.
I'll tell you that one evening, we were in Colorado, and we were in a cabin up in the mountains, and it had just gotten dark. It was right after twilight, and all of these little lights all over the mountain
Oh, yeah.
were coming on. And then the Milky Way was in the background. It looked just like a Thomas Kincaid painting.
Wow, that's
It
fun.
really did. I thought, maybe that's
Yeah, that very much so. That could be. And actually, I think putting in that stuff there, even though the frame will probably cover it up a lot, it definitely was a benefit to it.
It looks great in the mirror.
Yeah, I need to take a picture of it in the mirror. Oftentimes things look a lot better in the mirror, but
It really is nice.
Oh, yeah.
Could I buy one of those?
by
Easel?
an easel.
Yeah, to paint on. A canvas, I'm sorry.
Oh, a canvas.
A panel.
Yeah.
One of those.
Yep. I'll take care of that. Okay, so any other questions before I turn off the cameras? Think we're good? All right, we'll call this one then. So anyway, this little cloud area right here, the values are just too dark. It stands out kind of like a look at me neon sign going off there. So I'm just gonna tone things down and help it to feel like it's in harmony with all the other clouds around it. So that's it. Enjoy. Thanks for stopping by. Now get out there and paint your own masterpiece. Oh, and before you go, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And if you're interested in any of my videos, just go to my website at inmanfinearts.com and you can find them all there. Have a great day painting.